Rumors spreading round in that Texas town.
Our next and final group from the video, Rod Rojas, Ralph Shaheen, Eric Smallwood, and Chris Grainer. And we've got an exciting start to this group because Margot Frost is coming up with the old punch bowl, and we are going to pick the winner of the GoPro camera.
All right, here we go. What do you want me to? Okay, 008210. Yeah, 5 seconds to record.
Do we have to say it again?
8210.
Not here. Okay. You have to be here. You have to be here to win. So.
Oh, here.
Let's go 815.
8201.
There we go. All right.
The first time when you had those numbers in your phone, I was sure you were going 01, not 10. Very good.
Fantastic. All right, and as soon as Rod gets up here and sits down, I can lead off by asking him the first question. You're building these cameras too doggone good. It's almost hard to break these things. But what, all kidding aside, what is the next big thing in video that's coming?
Well, let's see. So what we're working on is, we've got the camera build down, right? And I think the next step for us would be, I think the next step for us would be to help our customers share. So building those platforms, making it easier for anyone, soccer moms, if you're, from a soccer mom to an F1 star, it doesn't matter, make it easier for you to share the content with the world.
And that's, of course, Rod Rojas from GoPro. I'm going to let the rest of the people introduce themselves, starting down at the end. I've kind of mixed up my own rules here, so sure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the panel here. I'm Eric Smallwood with Front Row Marketing Services. We're part of Comcast Cable, Comcast Spectacor, NBC Universal. We're a real focus. Front Row Marketing Services is focused on commercial rights, advertising, naming rights, sponsorship analytics, and working in technology in arenas, stadiums, as well as tracks and with sports, with racing teams. We sell advertising and sponsorship for Pocono Raceway, as well as working in the IndyCar world with Sam Schmidt and his team.
Ralph Shaheen, owner of National Speed Sport News, most trusted brand name in American motorsports journalism. Been around for over 70 years. And we do everything with that famous brand from Twitter to television these days. And I'm also a professional microphone holder on television. Hopefully a few of you have seen me there. I know I've actually worked with some in the audience over here as well. With everybody from the old Speed, now Fox and TNT. So hopefully you've seen me in a few of those shows too.
My name is Chris Grainer. I'm the co-owner and co-founder of XSAN. We operate primarily in the local short track industry. We've also broadcast stadium trucks, snowcross, motocross, but again, working on the end of the spectrum, that's the smaller local folks. We operate much like a startup, and we're coming up on our 5th year, and we're just sort of getting established as to how to make it operate on that end and work with those folks to help them promote what they do.
Rod, GoPro, a lot of great content out there. You've kind of revolutionized, obviously, the whole industry. Now everybody is a pro, can get some great video out there that was only available to the real pros before. But who owns this stuff? Are we seeing any problems with that, with racing series that might not be happy that, a fan or a team member is wearing a GoPro camera and, trying to make a buck off of YouTube advertising from a NASCAR race or an IndyCar race or F1? Are we seeing that as an issue yet?
Well, yeah, you know, yeah, there we go.
He's a video guy, not an audio guy.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know, it seems like over the years, with social media becoming bigger and bigger, the grasp on that has started to loosen. And you know, even 3 years ago, it was tough for us to get rights to different series and so forth. And now it seems like they're knocking on the door and saying, hey, you know, we like what you guys are doing. Social media is really blowing up, and I think that, you know, we would be a good partner. So it's really is starting to get easier and easier for us. That is, the competition, maybe not so much.
Are the series trying to take more control of that stuff, though? Are they concerned about their teams getting some stuff out there that might not be the kind of image that they want to show from the track?
Yeah, and that's always you know, part of the problem in policing that. You know, it does become tough for them sometimes, but for us, it seems things are getting easier.
And this segment is really video and media. And Rolf, you've done a magnificent job with National Speed Sport News, because you got an old publication that you've turned into a new publication, still in print, but you're also merging it with the new technologies. Speed Sport TV, are we going to see more content and maybe some more original content coming from you guys in the future?
It's going to be an interesting week. Stick around for Friday.
Yeah, I was trying to get it out earlier.
Not earlier. But yes, we have taken this famous brand and turned it into a media company. And that's really what you have to do these days, because if you're just any one of those facets, your challenge is even greater. You heard our track presidents talking about it just a minute ago. If you're just running one event, it's tough. You got to get multiple events going. Well, we have to get the news out, the information out on multiple platforms, whether it's video, the written word, digital, electronic. I mean, there's so many different ways of doing it. That's why I always tell everybody, we've taken this very famous brand and now we do everything from Twitter to television, because that's really what you have to do. And in doing that, going with your conversation about video and rights and all that, it's a bit of a challenge, and it goes back to what the track presidents were talking about, what Joey dealt with back in February. It's one thing if a company or a television network is getting rights fees. We talk about these young kids who are so used to strapping a GoPro on their helmet and bombing off in the woods on their snowboard, shooting all this killer video, rushing back down the mountain, and while they're having a burger at lunch, they've uploaded the video to all their friends that are at another ski area somewhere else. You know, they're not doing Facebook like us old guys. They're in all these other chat rooms and things I don't even know anything about. My 7-year-old will tell me, right?
That's excellent marketing for us, by the way.
Well, but that is what it is. But that's what it is. And because my 7-year-old's going to be doing it in Colorado this January. So now the same thing happens when that kid goes to the racetrack. He's so used to carrying these things with him, because this younger generation, whether it's a GoPro or their smartphone, this is what they do. They video clip things, they shoot this, they shoot that, and they're just sharing video all over the place, not thinking about rights fees, because it has nothing to do with their world. But now you've stepped inside an arena of competition where there's big corporate dollars going all over the place. And video clip on this side of the fence is one thing. Video clip on that side of the fence shared over here, when this guy over here just spent $9 billion to own it, is a whole nother conversation. So yes, in some ways it's great because we have technology and people who are anxious to use it and excited about it and technically savvy to do it. That's the other thing, is these guys are getting it. I struggle with it still. I'm amazed. I know we've all said this. I'm amazed at what my 7 and 10-year-old can do. I really am, because I haven't explained it to them. So I don't know where they're figuring it out, but it's like, boom, they got it. So his stuff is easy to use, and his competitors, but just talking about this market in general, the stuff is all easy to use, especially for these young tech-savvy kids. They can do amazing things with it. Now, how are we going to let them? Because if we do let them, it can really help push the word out about what's happening at some of these venues. It's going to, Dave Vodden just had 25 hours of lemons at Thunder Hill, right?
Yeah.
So think of all the video that could come out of that place. Well, if there's a $9 billion television rights fee to that thing, maybe we're not letting much of that video out. However, if David allows that, there's video all over the place. And now all of a sudden his back gate went up, short tracks can all see the same things, so forth and so on. But where do you draw that line?
Very good point indeed. Chris, XSAN is amazing. The coverage that you guys give, I kind of feel like I'm being transported in time, and you're doing coverage of your events, and I think I'm watching the old ESPN NASCAR broadcast. It's that good. But it's a different type of coverage. When you get done doing an event, obviously you're there and you're in an arrangement with that facility or with that series, but who owns that replay rights to that video? That's where I think you're going to get even more people watching.
Right, and so we operate in a market that is still sort of in its infancy of determining who really owns the content, and many contracts between series sanctions and tracks don't establish those video rights. So that's something we try to help our partners work with, but we end up on both sides in many cases and sort of have to work through it. But you spoke of NASCAR in its infancy, back when they started broadcasting, I think what the first flag to flag was 79. And the first full broadcast of the season was 1984, but it wasn't until 99 that they actually had the big contract. So we're operating back in, 1970s land as far as getting those rights established, but sort of also operating in 2013 and having to take into account all of the different technology that's available. So we're really trying to position ourselves, and Ralph sort of touched on this, as a marketing company to help these people model and establish what their broadcast rights are really worth. It's sort of difficult in many cases right now for an individual track or even a series to broadcast in an economical way. So we can help them establish and find what that true value is, if that makes sense. And that's sort of where we're positioning and going. Again, we're like a startup, so we have to just try what works and push through with it and see where it goes in many cases, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Last year was our first full year of really broadcasting a lot of events. We broadcast over 125 evenings, and we're operating all on the web, so we're hoping that transition to television happens at some point as well. So I don't have a great specific answer of who owns it, but right now it should be who has those rights in the contract. The problem being many cases those contracts aren't written, so we have to work in those sort of environments on occasion.
And the fights over that will get to be even more brutal when Eric does his job and sells all this stuff for us. How tough of a sell is this now with online video? Is there just so much stuff out there that it is tough to analyze and to see the value? What is the big challenge in selling all this video to potential advertisers?
Well, I think what it does is creates an opportunity. Does anybody know what team the dancing usher is part of? NBA? I don't know who's on the Pistons, but I know there's a dancing usher.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is it's all over YouTube. About 250,000, each clip gets about 250,000 views. They take the feed directly from the scoreboard, and it actually has State Farm attached to it, and it's during a timeout. So it's a great opportunity. If I'm selling the pistons internally, I'm going to sell that scoreboard and boost it up. Another example of how YouTube is so powerful of an engine or TV station as its own is Felix Baumgartner. He's this guy that goes up 20-some plus miles in the air, jumps out of a balloon, and survives and lands. That happened in October of last year. 8 million, at its peak, 8 million viewers on a YouTube live feed. Most of the broadcasters, CNN, decided not to show it live just in case, and Discovery Channel was also showing it live, but 8 million viewers for a guy jumping out of a balloon. I'm not sure if your cameras were on his out there. Okay, you guys didn't get any exposure.
Wow. Actually, so yeah, we were involved in that project, and we will. This is a secret just for this room. So we will be releasing something on that, yeah.
Red Bull received, just from the live feed and on Discovery, received about $48 million in brand value from the exposure, which we analyzed. And there were some other companies that participated as well, more technology companies. So I look at YouTube, I look at those opportunities as, those avenues as opportunities. On the other side, we operate with Comcast and NBC Universal. Comcast looks at it from content. What can you offer a cable company, exclusive content that you may have rights to that may not be live content, but let's take Indy 500. If IMS controls all of the old footage, can they create a specific IMS channel or Indy 500 channel during the month of May in the region of Indy, Detroit, and Chicago? So those are just examples of, if you have the content and it's old, it's not necessarily non-valuable. The Army-Navy game just did a real interesting thing on Twitter. You mentioned Twitter earlier. 1963, Kennedy shot. The game was going to take place December 7th that year. It still took place. They tweeted it and almost like live on December 7th this year, as if the game was going on. Yeah. So there's a lot of taking old content and making it. They didn't sponsor it. They should have had a sponsor to it.
Is that going to be the next big thing, though, for advertisers? Are they seeing a value? I mean, in my realm, internet radio, it's gotten so big that Arbitron is now putting out studies about it. They're the big terrestrial radio giant. But it's tough to figure out the right way to package this and to find it. Is that just a case of sponsors having that the old ways that we've always done things, we're going to keep doing it that way? Are we going to see a big shift to this new media being the target that people really want to see and want to sell their products as?
Well, I think we're such a fast-paced society, and we've gotten used to that with the internet and with handhelds. I think it's just going to keep speeding up. I mean, where they're going to go is where the eyeballs are, where the ears are, where the people are. So I think that's going to be driven by the population.
Chris, what is the best model for streaming of events right now? Is it pay-per-view because advertising is lagging? And how can you work with a series and with the track and assure them this isn't going to hurt their gate, it's only going to enhance it?
I really can't answer what the best model is, because again, we're trying to shape that ourselves and determine what that truly is. Depending on the events, we've done maybe a handful of pay-per-views that are really worth a true pay-per-view. Other than that, we have a subscription service that we run through the year for the majority of the events that we produce. But back to what's being spoken of a lot here is the marketing aspect of what we're doing is really where we're trying to help these tracks and series promote what they're doing. I mean, to give an example, IMCA has an event, the Super Nationals, if nobody's aware of that, it's in Iowa, 7 days of racing, 900 competitors, and that sort of event we can help not just by producing this pay-per-view, but by adding a lot of B-roll footage that we also use in our filming, but our production, but we place on Facebook, and really has a reach to an additional audience. We had some videos getting a reach of 2.4 million viewers, or not viewers, just a reach of 2.4 million people. So that's the sort of thing that we still need to work on shaping and trying to figure out. But we brought up a few different things like with Red Bull, and trying to figure out some of this commercial value. You're bringing up some questions about where does this go? I think the conventional commercial is gone. I think it's really tough for us to put that in any of our production because our viewers hate it. I mean, our viewers will be tired of a commercial quite quickly. So you have to do things more like in the line of a Red Bull, where you're tying it in a way that's interesting to the millennial groups, that they're seeing this isn't just an advertisement. This is content that's original content, that's interesting, that grasps them, and isn't just a ploy for them to pull dollars out of their pocket and run and buy a Red Bull. It's just an association that's a little looser.
Ralph, you've been around for quite a few years. Of course, it's not very well known that you
trying to date me here?
6. So, but you've seen the whole growth of motorsports on TV being a big thing, but now motorsports or smaller event racing. I mean, we used to get ASA national events. We used to get more World of Outlaws events live on TV back in the day, than we're even getting now. You've seen the costs rise of television production.
Skyrocket would be a good word, yeah.
Gotten crazy. Is the new media going to save coverage of, say, all but the 600-pound gorillas in the room?
Well, there are ways now that things are getting smaller, like their cameras, for example, that are is getting smaller, easier to transport this stuff around the country, set up shop, and do a broadcast. There's a lot of equipment that is cheaper, smaller, lighter, easier to transport around. So from that standpoint, yes, there is. Of course, you still need the dollars. It's like anything else. How fast do you want to go in this sport, right? If you can find the people that are willing to spend the money, like a Red Bull, you can have a field day. You still don't need the big TV truck because you can still do things with the smaller gear that's maybe even cooler than what you can do with the bigger gear, but you still need the money behind it. So whether you're televising a guy jumping out of a hot air balloon from the edge of space, or you're televising the Daytona 500 or a short track somewhere, do you have the money? And can you find a way to make those dollars work for the people that are spending them? Because ultimately, there are people that need to spend that money. Look, we're seeing a big issue right now in motorcycle road racing. Manufacturers need to spend the money to sell bikes. They got to do it. But we got to give them the right TV package, the right situation with the competition on the racetrack to make it all viable, so they go, yeah, that will help us do that. If you're just going to do it, it might not work. Red Bull, for example, is a lifestyle brand. Monster, Rockstar, all those companies are lifestyle brands. So when a guy jumps out of the balloon, they're selling a lifestyle. And they're capturing it on video and audio and all that. So everything that they do is pushing that lifestyle. Whether it's the Formula One car spinning around on the roof, 100 million stories above Abu Dhabi or wherever they were with that thing, or the balloon, or crazy snowboarding events, whatever Red Bull does and Monster does, Rampage, all those different things, it's all pushing a lifestyle. So they're selling little drinks every time they do that. We've got to find ways to do that with racetracks because it's a little bit different. We're selling a lifestyle in a different way. You heard again, I'm going back to what our track president said. They're trying to sell an entertainment. So we can capture that entertainment, but you got to have somebody who's willing to invest the dollars into the entertainment and wanting to put the entertainment on TV. It's a crazy chicken and egg thing. It really is.
Talking about a lifestyle, that's the GoPro lifestyle too. You guys really, I'm out of the demographic of action sports, but I am a YouTube fanatic. And watching some of these YouTube clips and then going to one of the rallycross races out in Vegas, I was amazed at how many of these people that I didn't even think I knew that were driving, I knew from other action sports because I've seen GoPro videos of them. How can tracks in traditional motorsports use your product to get that same wow factor to get people motivated to get their butts to the track, because it works for action sports?
Yeah, you know, I've spoken to a few different presidents of tracks, and you know, talking about getting cameras in the hands of the fans is always an interesting topic, and many of them think that could help. You know, it brings the fan in. You know, they're able to come out to the track and shoot and edit their own video or give it back to the track, that type of thing. So that is one way, you know, that it could be used.
Let me give you, you brought up something I was thinking about, and I'm going to throw this out there, and I don't want you guys to think I'm just hyping this because I work in it, but it's something I have up close exposure to, and I can give you a comparison here, and that's the Monster Energy Supercross Series. Now that's a series where they have found a really good way of utilizing technology like GoPro away from the venue to encourage the lifestyle, which is drawing people to the venue.
Yeah.
All these guys are going out free riding, or they're going to their local track, or they're racing on a Saturday at a motocross track, or they're hitting Glamis, or they're doing whatever they're doing, and everybody's got a GoPro or similar product.
We don't talk about
Mounted to the, well, you know what, seriously, all kidding aside, GoPro's become like Coca-Cola, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Or Kleenex. You say, oh, he's got a GoPro. You might have one of Johnny Sparr's cameras on your head, but everybody's thinking, oh, it's a GoPro, right? That's just so good for you guys. I mean, that's great. So Moto is a perfect example of where this is working, because everybody's got their camera mounted to their helmet. They're riding, they're freestyling, they're sharing the videos, they're doing this. Look at me, I'm just like Ryan Villapoto, blah, 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 blah. And then where do they go Saturday night? They're either at the stadium, if it's in their neighborhood, or they're watching, hopefully, me and the kids on TV broadcasting the race. So that is a perfect example of where in motorsports, the technology is fueling the lifestyle, which is drawing people to the venue. Now, can you do that at Anderson? Can you do it in Knoxville? Can you do it at Chico?
But there is behind-the-scenes stuff that we don't see as race fans that you could bring to us in funny ways and in clever ways.
But see, a lot of that is allowing the competitor, or encouraging the competitor to do it for you.
Correct.
See, these guys are out at the test track riding, or the fans are doing their deal, and they're recording it, and they're putting it out in the social media for you. It has nothing to do with Feld Entertainment or the AMA.
Good point.
Right, and that's what we encourage our athletes to do as well. So we want Ken Block, for example. You know, he's probably one of the largest socially active athletes out there. Gymkhana 5 is approaching 56 million views, and I think all of the Gymkhana series together is over 500 million views. So, you know, we encourage all of our athletes to shoot content on their own, even if it's not racing, what Ken is known for, more of his day-to-day lifestyle. You know, when he's snowshoeing with his dog, or you know, playing with the kids, or you know, karting or whatever, right? So we always ask our athletes to do that, or encourage them to do that. You know, it really is about the lifestyle.
And I've even heard about some tracks that have been encouraging people to use your product to show their adventure getting to the track and stuff like that, and having contests. I think that's an excellent way to get more fan interaction, which in turn encourages them to come back to the track again.
Yes, of course.
Anybody out in the audience have a question for any of our panelists here? I know it's getting late in the day and probably all getting pretty tired. I know Tim probably has some questions if you don't.
No, anyway, I think this is, we have a wide variety of topics. These people here, we have streaming video, which Chris is doing for XFans, available on multiple platforms. It raised a lot of questions over content legality and everything else like that. We've got Eric mentioning about the analytics side of things, sponsorship attitude and everything. I think what is really interesting is where we talked about the big track aspect and the money that was flowing from the broadcast contracts going to the tracks, giving them the resources. It's the ability of having this personal video and everything else that's going to help everybody out here go and create the content and share it like that from it. So I think it's a very exciting time on everybody, and we really wanted to save you guys for last because it is something that is important at the moment.
Isn't the inevitable conclusion is that there's so much content that it becomes so cluttered that it starts to dilute the effect of all that content out there?
Well, one thing I would say maybe is the fact that we've got even more sports channels now than we've ever had just on regular TV. You've got NBC Sportsnet, ESPN with 35 different channels. Here at Fox, we just went to FS1 and 2. All these other channels are popping up now. So there is a huge craving for content just over there, and that has nothing to do with the internet. And the one thing I have found, again, going back to my kids, because it's the only thing I can use as a reference point, they will hunt it down, they will find it. If it's something they're interested in, they'll look it up and they'll absorb everything out that is out there. And the best stuff always rises to the top. Ken Block is flat killing it. His productions are incredible. I mean, the time and effort they put into mapping that whole thing out is why he's got 56 million hits. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. So if you do that, you'll dominate the market.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about the quality of production that much, but I would speak to that as well, that the quality plays a huge role in what has a stickiness to it that actually attracts the, the end viewer and gets them engaged and leads them from one piece of content to another piece of content and engages them in such a way that they become a fan. So while we have all this great technology and products that have come along are making it easier, there still is that extra little step of making it a little more produced so that somebody is engaged. And at the same time, the young folks are getting good at it too. I mean, there's plenty of phone apps now for editing, and so you're getting going back another step to talking about the riders and drivers as entertainers. They're sort of becoming their own little production crew because they know how to do it. They pick up an app and they learn to edit with it, and the technology has moved in a direction that allows for them to do that and make it pretty nice. We found some software that lets you drop a bunch of clips in there and syncs it up in the music and it rolls. And we sometimes use that for people out in the field. So that sort of thing is available to quite a few people, and I think that that's really what will happen. So there may be fatigue, but at the same time, the cream will rise to the top.
I think it's also platforms. This was the first, last year, the Summer Olympics, in 2012, was the first time that any broadcast partner in the U.S. broadcast every single bit of events, telecast, all on second screen. So it was through an app. You could look on your iPad, you could watch badminton in the middle of the day. And I think that's what you're going to see is more and more platform opportunities to show that content, whether it's VOD on your cable channel, your handheld, your iPad, projected in the middle of a city square. I think that's where you're going to take the content. The unique thing about sports versus primetime TV, you're creating history every time, no matter what the sporting level is. It's a history event. So a live event means so much more than watching a primetime show, where you can look at that primetime show on a second screen or whatever, but you're creating history. So once that live content is so important to the viewer, and unique content.
Well, great job, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Rumors spreading round United Texas town about the shack outside the game. And you know what I'm talking about. Just let me know if you wanna go to that home out on the Rains, they got a lot of nice girls.